Hey guys, welcome to another video. So this video is going to be a lot different than what I usually do. If you guys don't already know, I make RuneScape 3 videos, but in this video I want to discuss why I chose to play RuneScape 3 instead of Old School RuneScape. So even though I have played RuneScape 3 for a really long time, I did actually give Old School a pretty good try. I played it for a while, about 2 or 3 months, and I put quite a bit of time in, got my account to sort of a mid-level, around level 85 combat, and about 1200 total levels, so I did give this game a pretty good try. So it's not like I just decided to play RuneScape 3, I really do enjoy the game a lot more, so in this video I'm going to be talking about why I chose to play RuneScape 3 instead of Old School RuneScape. Now, it has been a while since I have given Old School RuneScape a pretty good try, roughly about 3 years now. So even though there is about 3 years worth of content that I don't really know about and I'm unfamiliar with Old School, I did give it a pretty good try, and the core concept of the game is kind of what turned me off. So first off, Old School RuneScape is definitely much more of a grindy game than RuneScape 3. Now, that's not to say RuneScape 3 isn't grindy, of course it is, but the XP per hour is so much higher than in Old School. In Old School, good XP per hour to train a skill up to level 99 would be like 200k, maybe 300k, that's pretty high. Now, in RuneScape 3, you can get well over 1 mil XP per hour with various different methods while training skills. I personally like that idea. I mean, trying to get 13 million XP takes a long time, and I don't really want to spend, months just getting 99s in one skill. So personally, I really do like the fact that the XP rates are a lot higher in RuneScape 3, and that sort of does tie in with my next point, which is quality of life. For me, I am a big fan of all the quality of life updates in RuneScape 3 that sort of just make the game a bit easier to play. Now, in Old School, I'm sure they do have some of these quality of life updates. They do have all of the RuneLite plugins and other sort of things from third-party launchers and stuff like that. So they do have those things, but the thing that I'm talking about mostly for quality of life updates is things like run energy. It takes like about 5 minutes to restore your run energy in Old School, where in RuneScape 3, you never even have to worry about run energy, which is something I think is nice. I don't want to spend my time walking around the map or walking to my next destination, because that's just no fun. I want to spend my time playing this game doing something exciting and not walking around the map, and it's just a lot slower is what I'm trying to say. So that is one thing that I really don't like about Old School that I really wish they did change was, add some better run energy, at least add a rest option or something like that. But for some reason, the community, it seems to be a bit of an elitism community who really enjoys that grindy aspect of the game. So it's not something that will ever be changed. It's just my opinion that I don't really like that. Some other quality of life updates that I really wish Old School had, or that I really love RuneScape 3 for, is things like the tool belt. With this, you can add all of your really useful tools, and you don't need to always withdraw them from the bank. I can't tell you how many times I went to do a farm run in Old School RuneScape, and I just forgot my spade or I forgot my rake, and I couldn't do the farm run, and then I had to walk all the way back to the bank and all the way back to the farming patch. It's just really tedious and something I don't really enjoy. So I like that part of RuneScape 3, just those quality of life updates. Some other things that I would like to mention, like things like teleports. There's no lodestones in Old School. Lodestone Network, it is a really great update that I love in RuneScape 3. There's also like presets, just things like that just make skilling and make the game a lot better, a lot faster, and you can just train your skills faster and sort of just have more fun actually playing the game, I find. Now, aside from all the quality of life updates that sort of just make skilling and make the game a lot easier to play in general, another thing that I really do enjoy that is probably pretty controversial is the combat system. So personally, I don't enjoy combat in Old School RuneScape. I find it's sort of boring since the whole game revolves around the tick mechanics. The only real combat mechanics that you could encounter are things like prayer switches or even just equipment switches, things like that. That is about as complex as the old school RuneScape combat gets, I believe. I'm sure there are some boss fights with some interesting mechanics, but definitely in RuneScape 3, I would say the bosses are so much more complex, and there's so many more boss mechanics to deal with, which makes the game really exciting, learning all of the different bosses and the ways to do them. I really do enjoy that about RuneScape 3, and I think they have a lot more options available to add boss mechanics. I really do enjoy that about RuneScape 3. The combat just seems more interactive with all the abilities, and also you have, not to mention, your invention perks and things like that. There's just a lot of mechanics that you can deal with in RuneScape 3, which makes combat and PvM bossing much more complex and interesting, I find. Rather than sort of just using the tick system and fighting each monster basically the same, it's just a lot more fun fighting in RuneScape 3, I believe, especially with things like Slayer. I mean, in Old School, probably all Slayer tasks, or most of them, you will just be prayer flicking, and that gets boring. In RuneScape 3, each Slayer mob has their own unique mechanics. For some, you might need to use a certain weapon or a certain combat style. Also, many of the high-level Slayer mobs in RuneScape 3 have their own mechanics that you do need to deal with and learn, which can be pretty fun. So, although I find PvM and bossing much more fun in RuneScape 3, I will say that Old School does have a pretty good advantage in the PvP community. I would say a really good advantage. PvP is pretty much dead in RuneScape 3. Now, me personally, I'm not someone who enjoys PvP, so that is one reason why I wasn't really stuck on playing Old School RuneScape, and I was fine with RuneScape 3 because I find the PvM and bossing in RuneScape 3 is just much better. That's what I enjoy doing, so that's why I enjoy RuneScape 3 a lot more. Now, don't get me wrong, the PvP community in Old School RuneScape is definitely really interesting, and it's something that has intrigued me when I did start playing 3 years ago. Even with things like PvP worlds, I find that makes Old School pretty unique and pretty fun if you do enjoy PvP. So for that reason, I would say that if I did enjoy PvP, I could have possibly gotten into this game. But since I'm someone who really does enjoy bossing and Slayer and just fighting mobs a lot more than real players, that is why I sort of gravitated towards RuneScape 3 instead. Now, another pretty intriguing topic that I would like to touch on is just microtransactions. That is a pretty big reason why a lot of people like Old School RuneScape rather than RuneScape 3. Personally, I don't really have much of a problem with the microtransactions in RuneScape 3. I find just having Treasure Hunter, yes, it does sort of devalue the achievement aspect of leveling up your account since you sort of can buy XP, and it makes the game a lot easier that way. But personally, I haven't really been tempted to buy microtransactions at all in this game. I find they're sort of just not really too intrusive into the game. Also, if you are someone who's really against it, you could always play an Iron Man account. That negates microtransactions fully, which is pretty nice if you really hate that. But personally, I just really do enjoy RuneScape 3 so much more than Old School. I just enjoy the bossing and bossing mechanics a lot in this game. Also, as someone who doesn't really love grindy games, especially when it isn't really fun playing it, I find that RuneScape 3 is so much better suited for my sort of play style. I couldn't imagine just grinding out a skill, a really boring skill, for hundreds and hundreds of hours just to reach 99. I mean, it's pretty much like that in RuneScape 3 for some skills, but in Old School, it is just 10 times slower. So for that reason, I couldn't really get into Old School RuneScape, and I really do enjoy RuneScape 3 so much more. And so yeah, that is basically why I chose to play RuneScape 3 instead of Old School RuneScape. I find it really does just fit the way I enjoy playing games a lot better. Just the fact that you don't have to grind as much, and that's a pretty big deal for me. And also the quality of life updates and things in RuneScape 3, even things like the PvM hub, it's just really nice to have. Now, I do want to make sure that I'm not saying that Old School RuneScape is a bad game. It certainly is enjoyable for a lot of other players. I mean, it does have a higher player count than RuneScape 3 even. That is a pretty good pro to Old School RuneScape. But just personally, for my playstyle, I enjoy RuneScape 3 more. Now, if you guys have any questions for me as to why I might enjoy RuneScape 3 more, or something that I haven't answered in this video, let me know in the comments down below, and I'll try my best to answer them as soon as possible. But anyway, guys, I really hope you did enjoy today's video. It was a lot different than normal, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.